Are you a clown who feels awkward and uncomfortable about selling yourself? If so, you are actually completely normal. So says my guest this week, Tad Hargraves, creator of Marketing for Hippies, a strategy for selling that is respectful, courteous, and conscience-driven.
Welcome to the Clown Spirit Podcast. And here's your clowntastic host, Mr. Barnaby King.
Tad Hargraves, my guest on this week's podcast episode, is concerned with problematic aspects of marketing. But really, these problems are only a ripple of a bigger problem. The manipulative energy that is at the heart of empire. So what's super interesting about this episode is that everything Tad says is not only applicable to marketing, but to the world at large, and what is kind of wrong and problematic in the world right now. Those problems, that manipulative energy at the heart of empire, is everywhere. It's all around us, in our upbringing, our schooling, our politics. So it's very easy when we're trying to build a community that we think of as positive, especially one that involves money, for us to fall into those tactics of manipulation because we're just seeped in it, but we're not being entirely honest about our intentions. Now, this can be true of getting an audience to come to our show, getting a festival to book us, getting participants to come to a workshop, getting people to donate to a non-profit. However benevolent our ultimate aim or intention, it's possible to fall into these traps of manipulative, unethical marketing. According to Tad Hargraves, who is also going to be teaching a workshop on the forthcoming Business of Clowning course, the core problem is that we think of marketing as selling ourselves, that we need to somehow talk ourselves up. And the problem is that not only are humans not very good at this, but it also tends to be rather ineffective. Instead, it can be more powerful to be honest, transparent, real, and empathetic, to understand and speak to the concerns of our audience, and then let them do the selling for us once they've tasted and benefited from whatever it is we're selling. Tad is a hippie who has developed a knack for marketing. Since 2001, he's been weaving together strands of ethical marketing, Waldorf school education, a history in the performing arts, local culture making, anti-globalization activism, helping people create profitable businesses that are ethically grown, while also restoring the beauty of the marketplace. One of the cool things you'll get in this episode are the 10 questions that Tad shares. These 10 questions are to help you determine whether or not your marketing approach is ethical. He also talks about the tools he'll be teaching us in that workshop in August. And before we start, let me just share briefly about that workshop. It's part, as I mentioned, of a new course that's coming out called The Business of Clowning. And this is not just for clowns wanting to get more gigs or to charge more, though it certainly is relevant for those folks. It's also for people who feel called to bring more clown energy into the world as a way of life and as a way of making a living, perhaps by designing and delivering courses, by helping others, by writing, whatever it is. This course is for what I call clownpreneurs. And so as clowns, we need to learn some business skills. It's not good enough for us just to be great clowns. Just like a baker isn't necessarily great at running a bakery. If we want to be able to run a business or build a career or make money from our clowning, we need these other skills, this other level of mindset and organization that goes beyond just being a clown. At the same time, what I say in my course and what I truly believe is that our clowning skills, concepts, and values can help to energize and inform how we run our businesses. So the two things can work in tandem. And that's why I created this term clownpreneur, to bring those two things together and to show how being a clown can also help us be a spokesperson, be a business owner, be an entrepreneur, somebody who's actually using the principles of clown whilst also promoting clowning and helping to spread that positive, healthy, vibrant energy throughout the world. The course runs from August to October 2025 with 9 guest teachers addressing topics as diverse as organizing for community impact, transforming your relationship to money, and essential business skills every clown needs, as well as many more. It's also free for Clown Spirit Village members. So maybe you're listening to this before the course begins and you still have time to sign up and be part of the live cohort, or maybe you're listening to it after it's already happened and you want to take the course via the replays. Either way, I'd love to hear how it goes. This conversation with Tad is mostly about how to think about marketing in a business context, but I also invite you to think about the bigger implications of what you're hearing. How do these questions of honesty, clarity, charm, care, transparency relate to how we live our lives, how we'd like the world to be? I'm curious about what you learned from this episode, what sticks for you, and I'd love you to share that in the comments or reach out to me personally and let me know. So let's get into it. First of all, Tad, just want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast and being here for our Clown Spirit audience.
Oh, it's really good to be here with you.
Yeah, you too. Now, our audience doesn't necessarily know you very well, so it'd be great. I know this is the hardest thing in the world, but could you condense who you are for our audience?
I suppose the reason I'm here, I run marketing for hippies.com. I help hippies figure out how to get more clients in ways that feel good for everybody involved. Been doing that for about 25 years. Yeah, so it's mostly coaches, holistic practitioners. Those are most of my clients. Marketing just feels terrible to them and they avoid it, but they know they need to do it. So that's my gig, is helping them figure out a way to do it.
And what is it about it that feels horrible? And where does that, can you speak a little bit to what is the horribleness of marketing that people find challenging?
Part of it is what you just asked me to do, describe yourself. And I think self-promotion is something most people are allergic to. I think it's a kind of human kryptonite, is trying to promote ourselves, put ourselves out there. But I think it's made harder because we imagine that's what it's about, is about promoting ourselves. And I don't necessarily think that's true. And then so much of what people have experienced in marketing on the receiving end, and also if they've taken courses and learned, is either subtly or profoundly unethical and deeply disrespectful of people. So people imagine, oh, the only way I can get clients is to do something like that, and they don't want to do that. So I suppose that's why they avoid marketing.
Yeah, totally. I think we can get it and we can agree with the spirit of what you're saying. I wonder what the specifics look like for what is the unethical side of marketing? What is that? What is it that we see in conventional marketing that is I don't know, problematic, that is maybe manipulative or yeah, unethical for people? Can you give us an example of that?
I could boil it down to one thing primarily, which is anytime two people get together and at least one of those people has a hidden agenda to get the other person to do something, that will be unethical and manipulative. So, translated to business, if I'm trying to get you to buy, if I'm trying to get the sale, and that's a hidden agenda, I'm not talking about it, then I will manipulate you in order to get you to do the thing I want you to do.
Mm.
And so that shows up in a lot of ways. Use of false scarcity or creating urgency that doesn't exist, using a kind of social proof with the agenda to get people to buy, all the different closing techniques, the overcoming of objections, the all the tools of unconscious persuasion that people use in order to create a kind of excitement and a buying energy so that people will buy. There's a lot of ways it shows up, but it all to me boils down to that. Do you have a hidden agenda to get the sale, or do you have an overt agenda to get to the truth of whether it's a fit or not? Because if it's the latter, it'll feel good. If it's the former, it won't.
Being so hidden, it's really interesting. A hidden agenda. And does this extend to any, do you talk about communication in general? Because I'm thinking right now about not just marketing, but I'm thinking about parenting, for example. Like when we're speaking to our children and we're sometimes unconsciously or consciously trying to get them to do something, and we're not necessarily being super upfront about what that thing is. So we're using some kind of like mechanism or strategy that maybe we've learned or been taught, and we're maybe deliberately not saying what the actual thing is we want them to do, but we're pushing them gently in that direction. Is that always problematic, or is that sometimes okay?
I'm not a parent. I just won't comment, but I've got a lot of parenting coaches who would probably agree with the assessment that we just never need to do anything like that with our kids and could make the case. I don't know. It's probably reckless to say never
Mm,
with anything, but I will say that the coercion we experience in marketing didn't start in marketing. It's our whole life. Women and mothers are coerced into birth. The whole birthing process in most hospitals is profoundly coercive, steering mothers towards a certain outcome and to make it happen fast and on a schedule. And don't you want to just schedule the C-section right now? And we'll just, here's the epidural and all the coercions. And then, yeah, our whole infancy and childhood, there's a lot of coercion, all the just put them in a crib till they cry themselves to sleep, or all the manipulative tactics of parenting, not necessarily intended, but still consequential. And then you go
mm,
into school, and as Alfie Kohn said, we're punished by rewards and manipulated and coerced to be a certain kind of person and student, and
mm,
eventually to be a cog in some larger machine, which we do then maybe get a job in. And of course, then we thought we saw coercion before in school. Suddenly we're in the workplace and now coercion's galore. And then the whole political system, just politicians lying to us all the time, manipulating us to. So the whole thing, and that's not even talking about the news media. That's not talking about the all the various psyops that we're on the receiving end of. It's just coercion constantly. And so it's just that marketing is in cahoots with it. Marketing is has formalized some of it. Edward Bernays' work on propaganda, Sigmund Freud's nephew, I think, and he'd formalized some of this. And so we've gotten savvier at it, but there's a kind of fundamental manipulative energy that's, I just think, at the heart of empire. I don't think you find this same approach to humans or life in traditional indigenous cultures. What I see in those cultures is a profound, enormous respect for the sovereignty of the individual, housed within a village, of course, and but it's I think in so many traditional cultures it would be unthinkable to coerce somebody. Now,
mm.
persuasion is a different thing. Overt, look, I'm going to make my case and I'm going to speak as beautifully as I can for a certain outcome. But
Mm.
that's different. That's a whole different thing than I'm going to withhold information, keep some cards close to my chest, information that might be critical for you deciding if it's a fit for you or not, to get you to do something.
Yeah, and what about disingenuous praise or there is, I think there is a kind of strategy around persuasion that can have to do with acknowledgement or empathy. And there's a fine line between really connecting with somebody because you care about them or you empathize versus just saying nice things about them to get them to feel good and then listen. or be
Yeah.
persuaded.
Oh man, yeah, the love bombing that happened. One of my clients, she went to a weekend workshop and she swore to herself, pinky sweared with somebody she met that we're not going to buy anything. We know they're going to make a big offer at the end. We're not buying. And there was a $10,000 offer, and they both bought. But part of what had her buy was the woman who was running it was saw her and said, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you." Because she knew her peripherally from the scene. So good. It's just so good to have a friend here. And she bought. Next day, realized, what have I done? This is 10 grand I don't have. I went to get the refund. And do you think her friend who was leading this event, who was so happy she was there, responded to her personally? Do you think she made it easy to get the refund? It was just, that was the end of that friendship. So it either meant something, so there was a big betrayal, or it didn't mean something when she said, it's good to have a friend here, which is an even bigger betrayal. So yeah, yes, it's people think that the manipulative side of marketing is all fear and negative energy. But I remember a colleague of mine sent me a book and said, "Oh, you should read this book of a colleague of mine because you might want to endorse it." And I read it, and there was a lot of good stuff, a lot of similar things, but there were certain things that were struck me as unethical, struck me as this is not cool. So I reached out to the author, or maybe I think we'd been connected, and I said, "Look, I'm open to it, but there's some things I need to talk with you about your book." So we had a call and I read through every one of those things and it just said, this seems manipulative. Like, I don't know if I can endorse it. Maybe I'm not understanding it the way you intend it. But at a certain point, she said, I just think there's a dark side of the force and a light side of the force in marketing. And I said, okay, I'm with you there. Yeah, absolutely. So then I asked her the obvious next question is, what's your understanding of that? And she said, I think the dark side of the force is you're using fear and pain to market. And the light side of the force is you're talking about hope and possibility. And I don't think ever before, and maybe not ever since, have I been so disappointed in an answer in my life. Because I said, so is your grand revelation of ethics is that marketing has never used hope and possibilities to seduce people? That's most of marketing. That's the whole thing. You deserve the vacation. Drink this beer, you'll get these women. Man, so much of marketing is the positive being weaponized against us in order to get us to do something that they want us to do. And now talking about possible, it's not, or the pain, neither of those is actually the problem. The problem is number one, they lie to us about it, they exaggerate the claims, or or they have a hidden agenda. And so they're doing those things not because they're true, because they'll get us to buy.
So yeah, so good, so positive versus negative vibe is not the criteria. It's not a good filter
No.
to think about ethics in terms of marketing. So then how do you start to think about what is a good question to ask yourself about your marketing to determine whether or not it's ethical or whether it passes that criteria of being ethical?
Yeah. Yeah, there's got to be some criteria we can use to determine it. The fundamental thing I would say is you've got to just be able to trust your conscience. That's the fundamental thing. That there's something in you that just doesn't feel right. But I'll give you 10 questions. And as I go through, I just invite you and whoever's listening to think about some tactic that you're not sure about, or you've seen in the past that maybe didn't feel good. Or so here's the question. So question number one is about the feelings. And does anything about this feel bad, tense, or off, even a little? And if so, what? If it's an ethical marketing tactic, it will feel good. Now, you might be talking about negative things, you might be talking about pain and uncomfortable things, but it won't feel bad in your heart. You're not going to have trouble sleeping at night. So does anything about it feel bad, off, even a little? And the even a little is so important because sometimes it's just so easy to rationalize. It just feels a little bad. It shouldn't feel bad
Mm.
at all. There's nothing about it that at the level of our conscience should be compromising. Question number two is the facts, right? Does it mislead or misrepresent in any way and thereby take away someone's autonomy and choice and ability to make a fully informed decision, even slightly? And if so, how? Because so much of marketing is this. There was a great book by Jerry Mander called In the Absence of the Sacred. He's talking about the contrasting modern technology with indigenous cultures and how modern these technologies are brought in. And he points out that when they're brought in, one, there's no big public discussion about it, not really. And number two, they only talk about the upside. Has there been some big public disclosure about the downsides of AI and why we shouldn't? It's mostly sold on the upside. The downside is rarely from the industry now discussed. The industry isn't saying, we don't know if we should take the next step of AI because of this, and we want to hear from the people. And there are some downsides, and not the industry. Of course, yes, there's commentators and bloggers and podcasters galore discussing it, but the industry, it's all upside.
Mm.
And nothing's all upside. So that's misleading and misrepresenting things. Question three is the agenda. Is the agenda of this approach to get to the truth of if it's a fit or to get the sale? This one handles most of them. If there is a hidden agenda to get the sale, we're just on the off ramp to crazy town. This is where it all goes wrong. Question number four, consent. I love this. I can't remember who I got this from, but would you tell them every detail of exactly what you're doing while you're doing it if they asked you? If they were fully aware and informed about the marketing strategy you were using, would they still want it? If not, what would you hide? Meaning, there's a lot of tactics I learned in marketing that I would never tell somebody what I'm doing. Back in the day when I really drank the Kool-Aid, yeah, I'm bringing up a positive topic and then I'm touching your shoulder in a certain way to anchor those positive feelings to that touch. And now when I talk about my product, I'm going to touch your shoulder in the same way. And I'm going to use your name a lot, John. And because, John, if I use your name a lot, it makes you feel familiar. Isn't that true, John? And by the way, I'm smiling and I like you. I seem to like you a lot. That's fake, but I think it's going to help you to buy. And buy, that gift I just gave you, that was to induce reciprocation so that you'd want to return the favor to me by buying. And I've sat you in a really uncomfortable chair or in a really comfortable chair rather, because they find that people sitting in uncomfortable chairs tend to negotiate harder. So you're in a really cushy chair. And which option do you think you want? What I'm doing right now is the alternate choice close, because whichever one you choose, you're already buying. Like all that, I could go on and on with all the tactics that could be used, but you would never say that to somebody. So if you can't disclose the tactics you're using, then this is not ethical. If you would feel like, oh God, I would never say that, then yeah, don't do it. Question number five, are you in your business of what you need to do or in their business of what they need to do? And I find so much of the unethical marketing is people being in other people's business. Like it's not my business whether you buy or not. It's not my business whether you solve your problem or not. It's not my business whether you're decisive or not. That's your business. My business is to share the thing that I have if I think it might help, make the best case I can for it, and then you got to decide what you want to do. But so much marketing is people getting into other people's business, which is why it feels foul, because you can feel the intrusion. There's a psychic sort of penetration of
Mm.
our
Yeah.
boundaries, and we feel angry. We don't even know why, because they're smiling while they do it. And it just, yeah. So number six, could you do this with everyone you love and respect watching you? If not, why? If you think about the person you most respect in the world, what if they were watching you in this interaction and they knew what was going on? Would they still respect you or would they be disappointed in you? Number seven, the sex question. I love this one. If you were to reword your approach and rationale to be about sex and not sales, how would it land? For example, convince more people to enroll in your program becomes convince more people to have sex with you. If it sounds sketchy with sex, it's probably sketchy with sales. It's just been normalized at the level of sales, and we can talk about it in polite society. Whereas sex is a bit more taboo, and manipulation and coercion has been normalized there too. But I find that one is often eye-opening. I turn it into dating or sex or relationships, and all of a sudden it's just, oh God, this suddenly doesn't sound so good. Question number 8, the reversal to yourself. How would you feel if somebody used this technique on you, the golden rule? Would you want to be on the receiving end of this? Would this be something you'd love to just every day be on the receiving end of? Because if marketing and sales is done right, it is a pleasure to be on the receiving end of. When somebody's doing it really well, man, it's like a privilege to be on the receiving end of it because you're suddenly on the receiving end of this incredible attention and care and deep regard and respect for you that you may not even get in your day-to-day life. Number 9 is how would you feel if somebody used this technique on somebody you feel protective of who you know is vulnerable? All the dating and pickup stuff. It's okay, great. So it's very exciting because you suddenly feel this sense of power and you can go out and get laid if you're a guy and great, okay. So it seems to work, it seems to be effective. Good, great. So now imagine it's your little sister who you know has been suicidal. And some guy approaches her at a bar and is doing that. Now, how does it feel? Are you still for it? Because if you're not for it, then there's something wrong with it. If you wouldn't want that technique used on the most vulnerable, somebody you care about, which reveals how little we care about the people we talk to. Versus in sales, the if it's an ethical approach and somebody's really vulnerable, you don't become a predator, you become a protector. And so then that person, it leaves that conversation better than when they came in because their worth has been affirmed by the entire process. So there's that. And the last question, number 10, is the reversal to the market. And this one came from George Cow, a colleague of mine. I love it. He said, what would happen if everyone in the marketplace marketed this way? Like, what would it do? Would it deepen the trust in the market, or would it erode it entirely if everybody was doing it this way? So those are 10 questions I would use to determine if it's ethical.
I love it. Those are very interesting, powerful ways into the same central issue. I'm curious, as you were saying them, I was thinking about artists and the arts world, which is where I mostly sit and come from. I definitely have some experience of the coaching world also, but I'm thinking about how these sort of ideas would apply to artists who are having to market themselves all the time. In the arts, we're having to, whether it's actors trying to get work and marketing themselves on that level, or they have a show that they're marketing to find an audience for that show, or a tour booker that they're marketing to festivals or theaters or bookers to get shows. And I suppose that exists all the way down at grassroots level up to biggest Las Vegas shows. And it definitely applies to on some level. Like when we're marketing a show, you could say we're trying to manipulate an audience into coming to see our show. And how honest are we being about what that show really is?
Yeah, so I did improv comedy in Edmonton for 25 years with Rapid Fire Theater and hung out the Fringe a lot and street performers and yeah, so the arts and artists very dear to my heart. There's a few things I would say. One is I think it's really worth questioning this assumption that we're promoting ourselves. Like that framing, that languaging, I think does more damage having that assumption go unchecked.
Mm.
I just don't see it that way, that I'm promoting myself. I think holding in that way makes us really tense. Bryan Cranston talked about auditioning when he realized His job is like that the audition was him doing his job, which is to act. So he would show up, do his job, and leave. Like whether they hired him or not was not his business. I had a friend who got on Mad TV for a season, and he said, "Dad, does this make sense? Me on Mad TV? It just seems so crazy." I said, "That's not your business. Your business is to audition. They see something in you that has them interested. And whether or not you do well on that show, that's a lot up to them. Do they give you good parts, the editing of it? Like you got to leave all that to them." So I don't think we're ever really promoting ourselves. We're just sharing ourselves. That's it. Which is the etymological root of the word sell. Just means to share in response to a request. We're just sharing ourselves. And people either want it or they don't. They resonate or they don't. So there's that. But in terms of I'm also not against hustle and the kind of showmanship and the over the top playful pitches. That's a whole different for a $10 fringe show. It's the stakes are low. And I think there's just an understanding like, okay, this when somebody's standing there and it's the greatest show you've ever seen. Everybody knows they don't mean it. Everybody knows it's like the donair shop. It's like world's greatest donairs. Everybody knows that's bullshit. You go to Brick Lane in London and you understand that every curry shop there is not the best curry shop. The all say they are, and they have people standing in the front, like just come in, free drinks. They're desperate for business because they're all served by the same kitchen that exists underground, shipping food to all those curry shops.
It's making me think about that scene in Elf where Will Ferrell sees that coffee shop in New York and it says world's best coffee. Do you know that scene?
No, I didn't.
And he's from the North Pole and he says, "Oh, the world's best cup of coffee." And he goes into the coffee shop and he's, "Congratulations, everybody, you made the world's best cup of coffee." It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Nobody really believes it. It's a harmless sort of hype. But I would also say this, what people maybe are buying is, in this case for a show, a certain feeling. So if you can get up in front of a group of people and in your pitch make them laugh, then that's what they're buying is, oh, I get more of this when, for example, if it's a healer, and I think most of us have had this experience. You're at a party or at an event and you meet somebody and they have such a beautiful vibe and you just want to be around it more. And without them saying it, they're a healer. And it's, can I work with you? Can we keep talking? This is so profound. Why? Because you're having that experience with them now. If they were to sit there and try to convince you and manipulate you, coerce you into booking a session so that you can have that experience, it doesn't work as well.
mm,
Because we assume the experience I'm having with you right now in this conversation is what it will be like to work with you. That's the assumption. So it's the same with an actor at the fringe giving a pitch. I assume how you're giving this pitch is how the show is going to be. So if you are very high pressure and extremely awkward and not funny, fuck it. I'm not going to your show. Is it going to be more of this? Versus if somebody has that capacity to delight and to charm and the wink and the smile and then sometimes I just want to go support this person. They're so delightful. And that was a great interaction. And the other thing I would say too is shit, if you're doing the fringe and you're relying on just going around and talking to people to promote your show, you're fucked. From the beginning, you're screwed. You have approached the entire thing wrong and you're just already doomed. And now you're dealing with that. So instead, first of all, you write a show. One, you write a show and you think, okay, who's this show for? Who's the audience for this show? Who are the groups, the scenes, the communities that would be most likely to enjoy this show? You get really clear about that, and then you start reaching out to them. You reach out to the networks, the communities, the scenes, the Facebook groups, the contacts, the media of that scene and that community. And you say, hey, we've got a show that we think might be interesting for you. You find the other shows at the Fringe who are similar to your show. And you don't just hand out flyers randomly. You go to that lineup and you say, hey, if you are here for this show, you like this show, you'd probably like our show too. here's a flyer. You get really specific and targeted. Maybe you find some of the other shows that are popular. Say, hey, at the end of your show, could you give a shout out for our show? We'll do the same for you. And so then you're starting to work with these hubs. And of course, if you get a good review, you just make sure that the whole world knows about that. But you may find local people in the community who you know are influencers. Hey, could you promote our show? Could you share it up on social media? Could you invite your friends? You, and that's just your first year. But let's just say you come back for a second year for the Fringe with a different show. That first year, hopefully you got the phone numbers and the emails of a lot of people in that town. You didn't just meet them, but you connected with people who were some of the local hubs. And as you're on the train to you're sending texts to people like, hey, we're going to be in town for the show. Could you give us a shout out? You're reaching out, you're working your list and asking for favors that you'll never be able to repay. So it's this notion that when marketing is looked at as the cold approach only, and the cold approach of I'm selling myself, it's so hard. But if you look at it as instead of this cold approach, there's a warmer approach where you're going through existing networks. Eventually, you get the hot approach where you don't need to approach because everybody knows. And this happens to the Fringe. There's certain people get such a reputation. Every
Mm.
year it's a 5-star show and just they sell out immediately out of reputation. But to get there, you can go through this warm level of what are the hubs? What are the existing networks? And if you've written a show that you can't think of any community or scene that it's relevant to, man, this is some self-indulgent shit you're doing then. If you can't find any relevance to the human experience, there's no community that might, like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
this is just your endless quest and bottomless pit of self-fascination on display. Congratulations. But yeah, so that's what I would say to the arts thing.
That's a great, yeah, you're really speaking the language now of, I think, who a lot of my audience will be.
Can
Going,
I just jump in with one more thing?
yeah.
Another example. My friend Kevin Gleese, he was the artistic director of Rapid Fire Theater, moved to Atlanta, Georgia, became the artistic director of Dad's Garage for 10 years, also an improv company. And he loves improv. He's just one of the best improvisers I've ever seen in my life. And he really did beautiful things for Dad's Garage. And one of them was he saw that maybe improv wasn't quite as respected as some of the other art forms. And for Kevin, it's like improv is a high art form. And so there's an interview with me and him on YouTube somewhere, but he went to the opera and he said, I think, yeah, because maybe he got turned down for a grant because this isn't really the arts. And it made him mad. So he went to the opera and he said, let's do a co-pro. And so they had opera singers and improvisers together doing a show. We did something like this in Edmonton once, but it was a kind of thing where they would have like iPads on stage with the singers, and the improvisers would be sending them lyrics as the scene's going on that they would then
Wow.
sing out and all sorts of hilarious things. But they brought improv in front of this whole other crowd that
Yeah.
had maybe never seen improv live before, which got a whole bunch of people now coming to their shows from the opera. And I don't know if it worked in reverse, but they got a lot of that. One of the opera singers ended up becoming an improviser. So you can think about these kind of collaborations if you're really struggling. Okay, who could we work with
Mm.
that we could bring our art to a totally different crowd? Because what's happening is everybody's fighting over the same pie. It's like with yoga. Okay, there's so many yoga students in town, and it really is a finite number. It goes up and down a bit, but there's basically here's your yoga students. So then when there's a new studio and a new teacher, they're all trying to pull out of the same pie. But that means if I get a slice of pie, you get less pie, and now we all hate each other. So instead, though, you could imagine that it's possible to bake more pie. And so you could think, okay, could I take yoga to a crowd that's never experienced yoga before? That
Mm.
isn't their thing. So Tommy Rosen did yoga for addiction recovery. The woman Tina Veer in Toronto, yoga for round bodies because she's around
Mm.
her body. It's yoga for depression, yoga for anger issues, yoga for Christians, yoga, I could go on. So you can reach new people that aren't being reached by the typical approaches.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In some ways, clowning is in this interesting moment. And my business is really based on marketing clowning as an idea, as a practice, which I think has almost a limitless audience. It's definitely not limited because as soon as people hear about clowning and actually understand what it is, they may not have they may not be part of a current audience of clowning, but they become interested in it. So it's a kind of a growing audience, people who are like, oh, wow, that's what clowning is. Oh, okay. So our job is to find ways to expand that circle and to bring more people into this awareness. It's almost like an education. What is clowning and how can you benefit from it?
I got brought in by the Scottish Storytelling Center to do some marketing for storytellers. And one of the first exercises I did was around niche. And I said, okay, so in addition to storytelling, what are the scenes or communities you're a part of? And so some people are part of the queer community, some people are part of the nature connection community, some people are part of the astronomy scene, some people were part like,
Yeah.
of course. And so then, okay, so then how do you bridge those? So my business is called Marketing for Hippies. Why? Because I grew up going to Waldorf school. I grew up in a sort of hippie scene, but I was also interested in marketing. I bridged those worlds. So you could bridge clowning with what? God, what else are you passionate about or involved in or identities you hold, scenes or communities you're a part of, and you could bridge it into that and bring it somewhere where it just hasn't ever appeared.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of the interesting things I want to talk to you about is that, and this may begin to weave more into the essence of what clowning is, because I think there's a parallel here. Certainly, there's a long history of connection between clowning and hippie culture, for a start. The wavy gravy kind of thing. There are hippies who are clowns, and clowning has been sort of part of that. So there's a whole dimension of clowning, and maybe even at the heart of clowning is that this notion of honest, authentic connection. That's as a performer what we're trying to generate, which is different from improv. It's not about making people laugh, I think. It's really about, or it's not the same as comedy either. It's about finding this beautiful, delicate moment of connection with other humans in the space. And then that has to be based on this kind of raw, honest, truthful discovery or exploration of what is real in the moment. And clowns are typically also very raw about themselves, right? They're revealing truths, hopefully, about themselves. And so there's an ethical sort of demand built into, or a transparency built into clowning. So if clowns are engaged in marketing, it feels like that how do you bring that quality into your marketing as well? How do you make sure that there's consistency and integrity across me as clown on a stage and me? And I really like what you just said about it's not self-promotion, but it's we have to stand on a bigger stage sometimes, like creating a website or putting out Facebook posts. How we speak to our bigger audience in a way that feels consistent with this desire to be truthful, to be authentic and honest that we have as clowns. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Yeah. Or have somebody else stand on their stage on our behalf, which is even better. It doesn't always have to be us promoting ourselves. The best kind of promotion is other people promoting us. Like we're not that good. Humans are not good at self-promotion. And we should just get over the thought that there's something wrong with us for not being good at it. We're not good. As a species, we're not good. As a species, self-promotion is kryptonite for us. It really makes us weak at the knees.
Interesting. Yeah.
We're always gonna feel awkward with self-promotion. There's no getting to the other side of that. There's no fucking inner work you're gonna do where promoting yourself is gonna feel good, other than something that will also simultaneously probably kill your conscience. It's just that's how it is. We're shy creatures. We grew up in a collective. The notion of standing out, standing apart goes against our wiring. I think. I don't know why it is. I just know that people feel awkward about it, and that's not wrong. That belongs.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that we're screwed. It doesn't mean that's the end of everything. If I can't promote myself, that's it. No, that's the beginning of your imagination opening up because th- if there's kryptonite, there's a superpower. And our human superpower is promoting other people. We're all incredible at promoting other people. Intuitively, we know how to do it. All of us have businesses that are still alive today because of us, because we promoted them. So then if you put those two realizations together, you say, okay, what does marketing become? It becomes making it easy for the people who love you to spread the word about you. It becomes less about trying to find your ideal clients and realizing, oh, there are people who are probably looking for what I'm offering. So it becomes making it easy for them to find you. So then put those together, and it's, yeah, you get somebody else on their stage talking about your work. They send an email to their list promoting you. They post on their social media promoting you. And that works better. It's not that you don't also stay in touch with your people and share and keep everyone up to date, that too. But there is a limit of our own list. There's a limit of our own reach. And so to go beyond that, the answer is not you work harder, you hustle more, you cold approach more people. It's you think, okay, who would be the most natural fit for my work? And how do I reach those people so they can reach their people?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really enjoyed the phrase harmless hype. I wrote that down when you said it. And it was like, oh yeah, that's a good buzz phrase, harmless hype. And you were talking about when you meet somebody who just gives you a good feeling or you enjoy being in their presence and so you're willing to buy their product, go and see them or whatever, because you want more of that. And it was an honest kind of marketing because that person was just being themselves and that being themselves attracted you to them. So you could say on some level that even on a $10,000 program, if the feeling you get from the marketing is sustained in the product itself or the thing you buy, then there's an honesty. Like you're getting that feeling of being praised. Maybe you enjoy being praised. It feels good. And then you go into that program and you end up feeling amazing because you're just being praised for 8 weeks. I don't know. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but is that possible or is it a matter of scale? If you're buying a $10 ticket, then it's one thing. But if you're buying a $10,000 program, that's a different thing. Maybe it's
Well,
apples and oranges.
I would say if it's a $10 thing, people have been to a show before. They know the possibilities and limitations of a show. Maybe they've seen something that's transcended, and most of what they see is mediocre. They know they're rolling the dice. They just know. And they know if I'm choosing to believe this person who's promoting, never ask a barber when you need a haircut. Of course, you're going to tell me it's the best show because it's your show. Of course, you're going to lie right to my face. But I think it's all known. There's nothing really hidden. It's a kind of social contract of I'm going to hype up my show and I'm going to say anything to get you to come because I'm desperate for it. And so I think there's a kind of harmlessness in it. It's not, and again, $10, it's not that bad. Yeah, with $10,000, the stakes are much higher. And I will say this though, let's just say you're going around and it is harmless hype. It's $10, it's not that big a deal. But let's say this show's really shit. It's just an awful show. Like I leave halfway through it. It's so bad.
And maybe let's say it cost $100 instead of 10 because that's shows do nowadays.
Well, but even if it's $10, you better believe next year I see you
Yeah.
and you're promoting your show. Oh, you've burned your bridges. Like
Right.
it was just $10 and an hour of my time, but am I going to do that again? No. Oh, and you're really charming and it's a lot more harmless hype. Okay, great. See you later. I'm not coming to your show. The We do want to be careful. Like if you're promoting your show, even with the harmless hype, is like, this is the best show in the world. It's still got to be good. This is a fundamental thing. The show's got to be good. If you're promoting something that is not good and you're saying it's good and there's this disappointment,
Mm.
there's these four levels of promises. I got this from Thomas Leonard years ago. He said, the worst level, of course, is you overpromise and you underdeliver. That's the word. So it's harmless hype, it's $10, but You said the show would be good, and it was awful. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. I couldn't even stay. You, if you overpromise and you underdeliver, you will burn your bridges. You will cause a lot of disappointment, and people will bitch about you. There goes your reputation real quick.
Mm.
Word of mouth spreads faster about negative things than positive things. So then you can promise and deliver. It's going to be a good show. And they come and they say, yeah, that was a good show. It's great. So, if you promise and you deliver, now this is reliable. This is people trust you. Great. Level three, you under promise and you over deliver. Somebody's like, how's your show? Ah, it's pretty good, I think. It's all right. And then they come and it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. It's just, oh my God. If you deliver way more than you promise, and we've probably all been to show. I remember speaking to my friend Kevin Gleast. I'd done improv for at least 15 years at this point, and I was at the Fringe, and they had a duo called Scratch, and Arlen and Kevin, and they did their show, and it was the first time I'd seen them at the Varscona Theater, and it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen in improv. They started with multiple suggestions. They started with three different storylines, just the two of them, which the storylines all merged. They did a montage at the beginning of a bunch of vignettes of scenes that hadn't happened. And throughout the show, all of those vignettes, like the amount they remembered to pull together into the three storylines converging, and boom. Like I left, and then the next week I went to down to Loose Moose Theater in Calgary, home of theater sports, and Keith Johnstone, and it was the most boring shit I'd ever seen. I left at the intermission. I was
Mm.
like, I've seen this before. So when you see a show that's that amazing, it exceeds the expectations. And that's what we're looking for. Thomas said there's a fourth level where you don't promise anything, you just deliver. And that's not always possible, but that's just the realm of delight. They didn't
Mm.
expect it, but it happened. And great. So yeah, if you're constantly over promising on your shows and under delivering, there's the line, you can only make a killing once. Yeah.
Yeah, some people seem to manage to reinvent their killing and do it over and over again, but
You gotta do it in new towns.
yeah, that's
You
like the
gotta-
con man. That's the con man territory. That's where you really reinvent yourself and you come up with the next con and people don't see it coming. But it does strike me as interesting though, that even in the $10,000 example you gave earlier, that person, your friend, knew going into it that this is what they're going to do.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
there is a familiarity to that too. We're like, oh, we go into those situations expecting to be sold. So,
it's true.
and so on some level, she did know, but it's still in the moment she was seduced.
Yes, and the stakes are just higher. We've all been to that show again. We're left at the end, and you thought, that's an hour of my life I'll never get back. And it's not the end of the world. You move on from it pretty quick. It becomes a funny story you tell your friends. I remember I went to see some dinner theater. It was one of my first times. I had enough of a team with marketing for hippies. I said, we should do something fun as a team together. And a bunch of them were in Edmonton. And some friends of mine were doing a dinner theater thing at this permaculture site that I'd never been to. But I'd meant to visit them. I was like, oh, perfect. I get to feed two birds with one hand here. So we drove down and we show up, and it's in a kind of Quonset, like a barn. But we go in, and it's 20 couches, and they got a sound booth and a stage and a bar. And I just thought, man, this is profesh. So things are looking up. And we sit there on the side, my friend Alexander and Lauren, and it's like, this is going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And the show begins, dinner theater. They've never seen dinner theater. So it's a zombie wedding situation, wedding of the undead. And so somebody goes up to the bar, is like, where's the groom? Where's the groom? And they're thinking the person's actually not there. My friends. I was like, no, this is dinner theater. They break the fourth wall all the time. This is how it goes. And then the show starts officially, and it's fucking terrible. It's the worst show I've ever seen in my life. It was so like nobody laughed for an hour. It was very clear we were not just watching like the rehearsal. This, not even the read through. This was the read through. Like it was just so bad.
Mm,
And
mm.
somebody who I've performed with some of the best improvisers in the world, and it was extra painful for me. No charm, a lot of crass jokes. It was just awful. And at a certain point, I turned to Alexander and Lauren, and I just said, I hate this so much. And they said, "Oh, we thought maybe we were missing something. This is really good, and we just don't get it. It's just as bad as you were fearing." And it gets to the part of the ceremony where people get up and give speeches, right? So you would think, okay, they the rest maybe they've had to improvise, they're not skilled improvisers, but now they could Google jokes. They could just show up to the mic prepared, but one after another, they got, I don't really have too much to say. I don't know. And they passed it on to the next person. And the MC finally says, is there anybody else? Now it's clearly they've opened the door to audience members. I just say, I'm fine. I walk up, big smile, and I'm up there for about 3 minutes and I kill it. And people are laughing. Like I've given them manna from heaven when they were starving. The first laugh of the whole show.
But you showed them up, Tad.
I did. I did. With somebody had to do something. It
You
was
made it
that's
worse. You made it worse.
so I do that. I do that. And I at the end, thank you very much. Boom. And I'm walking back, and the MC said, is there anybody else? And I wanted to turn around and scream, no, there's nobody else. End this.
Let us go home.
It was so bad. But the whole drive home, it became the funny story. It
Oh,
was,
yeah.
we just vented about it. Here I am telling you now, and I've told this story probably a dozen times. So the low stakes, it becomes an entertaining story. But if it's $10,000, this is not a funny story anymore. And so as the stakes get higher, there more care needs to be taken. Yeah, if we're practicing juggling with balls, you drop the ball, okay, no big deal. But if you're juggling with knives, the consequences are much higher, so there's more care needed. And so what I said to my friend who signed up for this $10,000 thing or regretted it, I said, so when you were signing the contracts, of course, there's a big contract you signed. I said, did they walk you through it? Because here's the part, like that I'm going to be pitched. We know that's sort of common knowledge. But signing a contract like that, are we familiar with what's in these kinds of contracts? Is that as common knowledge as the fact that we're going to be pitched? It isn't. And so I said, did they walk you through it? Did you really understand what you were signing? Did they slow it down and say, let's just make sure you get it so this is a fit? Of course not. They just were trying to rush through as many sales as they could. So when it's that level of money, and I've had people come to me and say, yeah, I spent 50 grand. I wish I'd found you before I spent 50 grand on something that did nothing for me. $50,000. But it's the same thing. There's so little care taken in the filtering. And we
Mm,
want to make sure this is a fit because this is probably something you haven't done before. Now, if somebody's signed up for, let's say, a bunch of these $50,000 things, they probably already know the deal.
mm,
And yeah, they understand there's going to be a little playful tongue in cheek. Hey, you should, yeah, absolutely sign up. It's going to be the best. Ignore that. We know that what that is. That in itself is harmless hype, but it may not be harmless if it's a bad investment. But if you've done enough times, yeah, you know what questions to ask. And it's not just for a $10 show at the Fringe. The promotion cycle is you standing on a box screaming into the wilderness, handing out your handbills as if to say, hey, could you throw this out for me? We know that's the promotional cycle. It's real quick turnaround. When it's $50,000, that's a bigger sales cycle. There's a lot more risk, so it needs to go slower. There's more parts and pieces to it, and each of those parts needs to be tended to. Yeah.
There's something about improv. I was thinking about your example there of shows, great shows and bad shows. And this is something true of theatre in general, actually, and definitely clowning,
Mm.
is that one person's great show can be another person's terrible show. There
Sure.
is certain that there's some quality issues that we could probably all agree about, but there's also a lot of taste and there's subjective just experience, and then there's also variability in the how good the performance is that night or that day. Because
Sure.
with improv in particular, you can go to the same improv show and they kill it one night and it's terrible the next night. And I think with clowning, it's the same somewhat. Like it can be some one night they really get there's the magic happens, and then another night it's flat. And so as a product, it's a lot harder to be sure that what you're selling is quality.
And there can be an honesty in that too.
Mm,
Of again, first of all, I just think it's important to get out of the frame of I'm trying to convince people to come to my show myself. I'm selling myself. It's better to work through hubs. It's better to do other things. But I think that's something we could be honest about. And sometimes it's just the market has to learn it itself. But like I don't know if I would do it every show, but let's say if I was doing a clown show and I wanted to be really extra honest, yeah, at the beginning of the show, I might say, look, what you're going to see is a show of clowning. And clowning is so in the moment. And sometimes the magic's there, sometimes it's not. But with your help tonight, we hope the magic will appear. You could be very honest and humble. This is the art form. It doesn't always, it's not, it doesn't just come on demand. It doesn't
mm.
show up. So if it does, we're lucky. And if it doesn't, maybe we're lucky in a different way. But
You'll have a good story to tell, like yours.
yeah, it's gonna work either way. It's gonna be really
Yeah.
rough. You have a story, or the fates will smile and electricity will appear and we'll all know it. And then there's with improv, even the best people will have rough nights, but less. So this is part of the craft. And also, if you're starting off in clowning, do small shows. For the love of God, do a lot of tiny shows. Build
Mm.
your chops. Spend a lot of time on that so you're ready for the bigger shows. Because if you're starting off in clowning and you book yourself like in Carnegie Hall and you hype it up, this is just a setup for pain and suffering for everybody. Everybody's disappointed. So there is something about apprenticing. There's something about just paying your dues in the small venues. I say it to my clients all the time. I said, because I talk a lot about signature workshops, the idea of having an hour-long presentation that's just here's my worldview in an hour. This is my approach. And I say, now, if I were to say to you, look, I have two options for you. One, I can put you on stage in front of 1,000 people who are your ideal clients. Or we can do a little bit of a tour and you'll do 100 presentations to 10 people. Which do you choose? Now, as soon as I ask the question, people sense there may be a trick. Because the obvious thing is leverage wise, just get in front of 1,000 people 1 hour versus 100 hours. It's plus all the travel time, and this is a better deal. But for most people, I say I would beg you to do the second option. I just get down on my hands and knees and implore you, do not go for option one. It seems so great, but don't go to that light. It's because you'll fuck it up. Your first time, you're going to take your first kick at the can with this workshop where you are aiming at an hour and you're almost certainly going to go an hour and a half or 2 hours because that's just how it is the first time you do it. You're going to pack in too much. But if you do 100 of them, by the time you've done the 100th, you're ready for the stage. Now you're ready for the 1,000 people. So pay your dues and don't. If you're a starting off improv company, it's dangerous to be like, we're the greatest. If you're giving out handbills, to me, my pitch as a beginning improv theater company, I'd be like, we're young. We're not totally great yet, but we'd appreciate the support if you could come. We're learning. Then it's honest, and people might just go, oh, yeah, let's
Yeah.
support the young people. Let's go see their show. You don't have to pretend, we're better than Scratch. We're better than the Pajama Men. We're better than all these people. Probably not. But you don't have to lie. You can just work what you got. We're young. We're naive. Come see our show. We're funny sometimes.
I had my solo clown show that I created in that I toured to Edmonton and the Fringes was called Flawed Genius. And my sort of tagline in the show is I'm mediocre. And I get really mad about it. I hate mediocrity. I hate being mediocre. I want to be great. And it's like the whole theme of the show, really. So it was quite lovely because then on the street when I'm improvising and playing and connecting with people, I could I could play that. I could start to play that. Come see my show. It's mediocre. And it would make people laugh. And then I'm almost like giving them little snippets, little fragments, little experiences of actually what that's like. And likewise, at the same time, it's like I'm getting connected with my audience in those moments. I'm starting to learn what actually works. It's almost like street performance,
So
connecting, improvising, and then it's not too big of a leap to go onto the stage when I've been doing that all day.
yeah, and it's I just love that. Yeah, it's mediocre. Because the thing is, I think what we imagine confidence looks like is different than what really confident people look like. Like Andrew Tate is a teenage boy's version of what healthy masculinity is. You know what I'm saying? That's the sort of imagination of it. That's what an integrated male looks like. God bless him and everyone in the world for doing the best we can. But if you met Steven Spielberg at a party and you said, "What do you do for work?" because you didn't recognize him,
Mm.
he wouldn't be like, "I'm Steven fucking Spielberg. What do you mean who I am?" He'd say, "I'm trying to make it in the movie biz." Like I was on a flight, Southwest Airlines flight, and I've never seen this since, but it was three seats facing three seats, kind of like a in the back. And I'm sitting there, and this woman's reading the paper next to me. It's back in early 2000s. George W. Bush is president. Some headline about him. Ah, fucking W. She's, yeah. And so we were chatting about that. But I'm like, yeah, what do you do? She said, I'm a musician. And I say, and you already know she's famous. But I didn't know. And she said, I'm a musician. I said, oh, what do you play? I said, oh, guitar. I said, oh, cool. Do you play is it professionally or is it just a hobby? And she said, no, it's my work. And the people looking at me from across clearly know who she is. 'Cause I'm just seeing the look. I was like, so do you play in a band? Do you play solo? She says, oh, I have a band. And I said, oh, you sing or song, you write songs too? And she said, yeah, I write my own songs. So what's the band called? Doesn't really have a name. I was like, oh, the Dave Matthews Band or something? She said, yeah, kind of like that. I said, what's your name? Bonnie Raitt. But so you see what I'm saying? It took me like 3 minutes to get her to
Right.
say anything because people who are really confident don't brag about themselves.
Yeah.
Aside from the harmless hype, aside from the this is the greatest show you've ever seen, of course you like. But it's not, that's done with such a smile and a wink. It's not real in a it's Breakfast at Tiffany's. There's that line where they're talking about Audrey Hepburn. She's a phony, but she's a real phony. It's okay to be a real phony. It's like people know that's fine. But when it's somebody who's really confident, I don't even think of it in terms of confidence. They're just comfortable in their own skin. And it's really wonderful to be around somebody comfortable in their own skin. A pitch that would work much better for me for a show is somebody that's like, how's the show? I think it's pretty good. I've been doing it for a while. The reviews are good. The critics have been kind. Because if, even with the harmless hype, if it goes too far, people just pull back. Like, oh,
Mm.
I got the memo. It's great. The harmless hype part of that's it's charm. I was thinking about charm and how charm is many things, but one of the things that it has the capacity to do is disarm people, take down their defenses. So of course it makes it a big medicine charm actually, because it's that can be used to prey upon people, but it can also be used to help people feel safe. You know how it is, you go to a party and you don't know anyone, and somebody comes up who's just so charming, and suddenly you just feel so at ease. Oh God, can I just hang out with you all night? Because they're so good at disarming people. They're so good at, and with the self-effacing comments, and you just suddenly, you feel at ease with them. And so even with a performer, that's what I'd be going for. The part of the hype, this harmless hype, the wink and everything, is it's not serious. They're being playful. And so now we're playing. And now I'm having the experience of playing with you, and I can just relax. And then, yeah, do I go to the show? A lot of that's going to be my schedule. What's the show about? Is this what I'm interested in? Can I afford it? It'll be all those things. Yeah.
And is it easy to buy ticket? Is it easy, like the accessibility?
Is it how location? Oh, so that's across town. Oh, no, I just can't make it. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, do I have friends who want to go with me? Yeah, everybody sees the hustle. They know it's an honest hustle. So I don't think anyone really begrudges an artist upping their show. And I'm still saying, as an artist, the question I would put to you is, as an artist, is can you, let's just say you weren't allowed to talk to anybody on the fairgrounds. Not allowed. Now, how do you fill your show? There are ways to do it where
Mm.
you're not the one promoting it. You've got other people promote. Yeah, there's other ways to do it.
Yeah, beautiful. Tad, we've been talking for an hour and I feel like there's a ton there and more to talk about. I'm excited that you're going to be doing a workshop for our audience
Yeah.
in August. And I imagine it's going to be a lot of the same type of content or ideas you're going to be talking about. Or is there something more specific that's going to be in that?
We're going to get into what I call the seven fundamentals, which are core things that I think people need to have in place. It's why I think so many businesses, as soon as you're an entrepreneur, Facebook realizes this and starts sending you ads of all the things you need to do, all the tactics that this is going to change everything. You got to write a book, you got to have a membership, you got to have your own app, you got to all that stuff. And they all work, I think, actually. There's nothing unscrupulous about the tactics themselves, but if you don't have the foundations in place, it just doesn't work. So the seven are at the foundation of the pyramid, there's ethics. And then above that, you got to have enough space in your life to actually be able to do stuff and make your business a priority. Above that, you got niche, not trying to be everything to everybody. Above that, there's what I call point of view marketing, where you, instead of trying to make the case for them to buy from you, you're making the case for an approach or a philosophy, which just works better. Above that, you got business model, which means your offers to the market and the systems in your business and the structure, which most hippies are really resistant to. And then you've got on top of that hub marketing, which we've talked about a lot today, of could other people promote your work and that actually work better? And then the tip of it is sharing, just picking the tactic that's going to work best for you. But I do have one last thing on clowning. This was the thing I thought about before we hit record was, so I did a clowning workshop years ago with Jan Henderson in Edmonton, who was a delight, part of this arts summer camp called Arts Trek that was just amazing. And she had this exercise where we had our clown noses on, and it's like two cups. Which one do you want? And it was this going with your impulse. Which one just lights you up? And it doesn't need to make any sense. It doesn't have to be logic. Just go with your impulse. And it was amazing to me that there were impulses there. Like the pink cup. Obviously, I want the pink cup. What are you, crazy? Who would want the blue cup? It was just this immediate grab. And I think in business, we lose a lot of that. The trust in our instincts, the trust in our impulses. And it's one of my favorite exercises I'll give, which we're not going to go into in that workshop in August, but especially if people are struggling with their niche, right? They're like, what is my crowd? What do I want to be known for? It's people can get very lost in the who of it. Who's my target market, my ideal client, my perfect customer, the avatar, all this stuff that's taught. And if people are stuck, one of the things I do is I say, okay, imagine this. A group of people come to you and they say, you're the one. Barnaby, you're it. You're the one we all want to learn from. And they say, we know what you do. We know the problems you solve and the results you help people get, and that's what we want. And we were thinking you could design a year-long program experience, something for us. We're fucked up, but we're rich. So don't worry about what you charge. Charge what you need to charge. We've got two goals for this. One, we just want it to get us from island A to B. We want it to do the job. But two, we just want you to be delighted by what you're doing because we figure if you're delighted by it, it's going to be great. So all the weird stuff you don't normally put in your program, put it in. We'll do any weird homework. We'll do whatever. However you design it, we're just in. We're committed. You don't even need to tell us what it is right now. Design it. And when you bring it back, the answer will be yes, because it's you we want to work with. So whatever you think is good, we'll do. And so I give people 5 minutes. I say, just write the thing you want to do. What's the thing you've been sitting on that just you'd be so delighted and lit up? What's that pink cup that you just haven't grabbed yet? And then when they come back after 5 minutes, I say, how are you doing? How did that feel? And they're just vibrating. Oh my God, this is the thing I actually really want to do. Because from that, you can reverse engineer the niche. Because then it's okay, who would be interested in that? Because your ideal clients, by definition, are the ones who look at the same cup and say, that's the one for me. That's baked in. If they look at your ideal offer and they're lit up, that's your ideal client. So there's a similar kind of, can you trust your impulses? Can you trust your instincts, the creative juju, rather than trying to logic yourself there? The logic has a role and a place, but so often I just see entrepreneurs have actually lost what brings them alive. And the world needs more people who are alive.
I'm creating a tool that's a little bit like that, and I'm calling it the Clownpreneur's Compass.
Cool.
So we're trying to make business people out of these clowns, but by using their clown instinct and their clown impulse as a starting point.
What is it called?
Clownpreneur's Compass. Like entrepreneur, but clownpreneur. It's not a
What?
real word. I made it up.
No, I get it. Can you give the quick pitch for it? I'm curious about it. What's in it?
It's a very quick exercise with 4 directions going around the north, east, south, west, and each
Okay.
direction has a question that gets you to think from starting from why am I here? Why am I doing this? Into what do I do that people consistently receive or reflect back to me that's valuable to others? What do I currently offer? What do I imagine being able to offer? And then the final step is what can I do now that would get me on the first step towards that?
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
Clownpreneur's Compass. So what you're doing is marketing for hippies, but in our case, you're going to be doing marketing for clowns. That's who the audience is.
I love it. Yeah, I look forward to it. It'll be great.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's perfect, and we're ripe for this, Tad, because we need more clowning in the world, and so I'm just excited about all the people there who are wanting to spread the clown vibe and magic, and you can help us with that. So thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely, anytime, and feel free to invite me back on your show if you have one.
I was just going to say, in the new year, I'll probably be creating a podcast, the Marketing
Sweet.
for podcast. So I'd love to talk with you about this Clownpreneur's Compass.
Yeah, and we'll have more data by then, so absolutely.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you so much, Tad.
Thank you. We'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Bye for now. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Tad Hargraves. If you want more from him, sign up for the Business of Clowning. Starting August 11th and running for 3 months, Tad will be the very first presenter in that course, which will include 9 different presenters over those 3 months. And at the end there, we were talking about the Clownpreneur's Compass. If you're interested in that, check out the Clown Spirit website. You can download your very own PDF version of the Clownpreneur's Compass and do the exercise yourself. All you have to do is fill out the form, give us your email address, and we'll send it to you. Thanks so much once again for listening to the Clown Spirit podcast. I'm Barnaby, the founder and director of Clown Spirit, where we take the power of clowning and we use it to bring lightness, joy, and connection to your life and the lives of everybody around you. Help us unleash the power of clowning into the world by sharing this podcast, subscribing to our channel, and, of course, listening to the next episode. Until then, keep clowning!